G'day and welcome to this episode. Continuing on from the last episode about 3 weeks ago, I'm going to continue with the epoxy on the two front guards, the two doors, and if I can, the bonnet. So let's get into it. Alright, so in between the last episode and this one, I've done a little bit of work on the Porsche. Unfortunately, the brake master cylinder was gone on the Porsche, or what I thought was the master cylinder turned out to be the brake booster. So I have been trying to figure out a repair for that. Turns out it wasn't the master cylinder, even though I replaced it. So it is the brake booster. So anyone that's watching this channel for the 911, the 996, as you'll probably know, it's a 996.1, the first generation of the 996s, a 98 model. And I found out they no longer make the brake booster for that model because there was a technical data bulletin, they call it. Not a recall, but a technical data bulletin released in 2001 in regards to that brake booster taking in water through the boot seal. And because of that reason, they've discontinued that booster. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass because you've got to get a new brake booster, which is from 2001 forward. And unfortunately, that doesn't fit the brake push rods. The boot's all different. And so everything back all the way down to the brake assembly has to be replaced alongside the brake booster. So yeah, not a quick fix at all. So in order to get that back on the road, I have to replace all that. If I was to bring it into Porsche Mechanic or Melbourne Porsche, you'd get the old Porsche tax. I'm always doing things on a budget, so I have to do it myself. And that's how you learn as well. So I've now learned how to take a master cylinder out of a 911. It's the same forward, basically, from the driver's seat forward. It's exactly the same as a Porsche Boxster. That was because of the budget reasons back in the day. So this master cylinder was an OEM TRW, I think, that make them, and the same with the brake booster. If you were to get a Porsche branded one, you pay probably $500 more. This is $70, and the brake booster would be about $190. I think if you were to get Porsche one, it's like $800. Massive difference, exactly the same. Anyway, that's what not majority of you are here for, so you're here for the WB, and that's what I'm going to get into. So as you can see there, the two front guards are in etch. You would have seen that from many episodes ago. The two doors are finished now. They're over there full of redbacks, and up here, I don't know if anyone else in Central Victoria, but we've just had a redback infestation in this shed. Really got to watch yourself when you're walking around picking stuff up, because there've been some big redbacks. You don't want to get bitten by one of those. Anyway, the bonnet is hiding up in the mezzanine up there, so I'll probably go and show you that as well. As I mentioned earlier, the beauty about being in such a dry climate is I've had that in bare metal for over a year, and it's got no rust on it at all, so it's amazing. Now I know why you go inland to buy cars, especially around Bendigo, Central Victoria area. It's dry as a nun. So right, so enough of that crap. Let's gather up all these parts and start to have a look what is required. Get them in the booth and get them sprayed. So here we go. All right, so got the two front guards on the table. I got this table from a mate. I got this table for free from a mate called Clint McIntyre, and it was an old table he used in his office, and he couldn't get rid of it. So it's come in so handy for this kind of panel work because it's a good height, but it's also got a really wide surface area. Yeah, so two front guards in etch. I'm going to get the thinners out and take that off just like I did the body. And then once I've done that etch, I'll get onto the doors and deox those. They're not in etch, they're bare metal, so they just need to be deoxed, and then I can start to fit them up on the garden arch and get ready for paint. So here we go. Etch primer's off. I did notice that, yeah, there's still some holes where the mudguards were along here. This was also, when I first got this ute, it was like a bit of a B&S ute, so it had side skirts on it, metal side skirts, and big, and they came up sort of here. They were big, these big triangular metal side skirts. So yeah, there was truck lights like running down them and everything. So she was the full deal. But yeah, they really need to be welded up before you go to epoxy, because otherwise you're just going to have to take it off again. And I did notice that there was a bit of a rust repair that I'd missed just here. And that's actually a noticeable section where the bonnet meets the wheel guard, so that needs to be fixed. And it's a strange one, it's just been eaten away there, so I should be able to just nick that out, give it a little patch repair. Or you could probably just build it up with a bit of weld and then grind it back. In fact, that's probably what I'll do. Anyway, so I've also cleaned up the insides. I was umming and ahhing whether to bring this back to bare metal, and they suggest that you do epoxy on bare metal. And I was also thinking about doing KBS. So, it's going to be a bit of a juggling act whether you do the outside in epoxy and leave the inside for the KBS and potentially some guard deadener, which I do have. But what I was thinking is I'll just get it in there, I'll epoxy the whole thing, and then it's done. It's all sealed. And people will probably say, well, you need to get it back to bare metal for epoxy. However, that's pretty much bare metal. It's just got a fine residue of paint on it from the thinners. And yeah, I'm just going to run with it because I can't be bothered going for the sanding it back at this stage. It's just too much work, too messy, and for the inside of a guard, I don't think it's worth it. So I reckon the epoxy will hold. It sticks like shit to a Shanghai, so it sticks. The epoxy should hold. I mean, it sticks like shit to a blanket. So yeah, I'm sure I'll get some thumbs down for that one. But yeah, you gotta make the call sometimes, and that's the call I'm going to make. So we'll see how that goes. But everything else is ready to go. So let's just fix up those little holes, get them sorted, and then they'll be ready for paint. Then I'll move on to the doors. As I'm always looking for things to save money, save costs. I was walking around this property that I purchased about a year ago, and saw this garden arch sitting in one of the areas that was just decrepit and full of old plants and things like that. And I could have very easily threw it out, but I decided to keep it because I thought it would come in handy when it comes time to painting the panels and things like that. So pretty good cage to hang things off, and that way you can sort of have access to both sides of the panels and multiple panels at a time. So what I was thinking is, you could potentially hang guards on both sides like that, have access to, getting high and low, and then maybe hang each door on each side of the opposite side. So I'm going to get this in the booth, and with the aid of some wire and things like that, we'll try and hook everything up and see how it looks. Okay, take two. As you'll see, I had a bit of an accident just before and ended up giving myself a second degree burn, almost third degree burn on my leg, because I stupidly had the thinners rag when I was welding on the bench, and a spark flew over and hit the rag, caught on fire. It wasn't that much of a big deal, and I thought I could literally just throw it on the ground and put it out. Decided to throw it on the ground and stomp on it, but of course I forgot earlier on I'd actually spilled some thinners on the ground, and although it had dried up, there's some still residue on it. So when I hit the ground, it literally turned into a metre high flame. I tried to stomp on it. It was a combination of errors. That I was using this chucks, which is obviously some kind of plastic substitute of some description, caught on fire, stuck on my boot, and then I couldn't get it off my boot, and I was wearing shorts, and as the more I flicked it, the hotter the burn, and yeah, it burnt my got a decent old burn mark, 2nd degree burn on my calf. So yeah, stupid mistake, and it always goes to show whenever you're welding, don't cut corners. I thought I only had a little bit of weld to go on that guard and a couple of pinholes. It only took me 5 minutes, but so I didn't put my pants on. I had my shirt on with my gloves, but unfortunately, if I had my pants on, I wouldn't have got that burn. So always put your PPE on whenever you're doing any welding or working with anything that could potentially burn you. And it was my fault, stupid mistake, but obviously learned the hard way and won't do it again. But also, you know, have a fire extinguisher in your shed. I didn't have one, and I was running around with like a headless chook trying to find a way to put it out. I've got a hose and a pump system. You've seen me install that. Luckily, I threw the boot outside, so I had a fire outside and a fire on the bench at one stage, and it could have gone south real quick if there was thinner rags, a couple of thinner rags around. If it caught on one, hit that plastic in the booth, the whole bloody shed could have gone. I could have lost the whole project, and you know, and maybe my life. So you don't know how quickly it can escalate from a minor little fire that I could easily have just put a safety fire blanket over. It would have been done, to throwing it on the floor and fucking, you know, escalated very quickly to a 2nd degree burn. So anyway, I went to emergency and hospital in Castlemaine and got it sorted. But yeah, here we are, you know, 24 hours later, and I'll get back into it again. But lesson learned. If any of those guys are out there, you know, that aren't used to working with this stuff full time, it's always, you know, be very careful, because you never know what can happen with sparks. So, all right, so I'm going to get back into it now and start to I'll finish the welding and then deox these panels and doors, and then get it into the booth to spray epoxy. So that door that I was working on with the skin a couple of weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, I've just finished up a couple of rust repairs here, just quick and dirty. One real tight one in here. Water gets collected inside this rail here. There's a lot of bog that is pushed in here from factory, and I assume that just gets caught in this little lip here and rusts out. There's also some here as well. If you refer to the first door repair that I did, and I'll put the link up now for those who want to get into more detail with that, I go through how I repaired that, but essentially I just got 2 little patches there and put it in. So a bit fiddly. This is an enclosed area as well, so it's once you get an access hole in here, it gives you an opportunity to have a look at the surface rust and treat that in there. And then yeah, that's really the best you can do. There is surface rust inside there, and there most likely would be right up there, but you know, it is what it is, and all you can do is hope that it stays away. So that is that door sorted. I'm going to have to go and wash the inside here. As I mentioned, I'm not going to bring all that tar back. I'm just going to I'm going to leave that, and so I'll just wash the grime and stuff up, and then once it's all done, eventually I'll just KBS inside of that again once the epoxy's on, and that'll give me a base to put the dynamat and soundproofing and stuff like that down the track. Moving over here, I've got the 2 guards. They look sick in back to bare metal again, and they are both ready to go to epoxy. So I just did some final adjustments and fixes on these little pinholes down here where as I mentioned, all the guards, the mud guards and the skirts and stuff were on. So I'm really happy with the way they turned out. There's a fair bit of work that's gone into those guards to get them to where they are. And that is ready to rumble, and moving on over the chassis. As you can see, that's next in line, so it's going to be a big job, but stay tuned for that. And yeah, this is the first door, so I'm going to put this on the table next, give it a bit of a once over, deox it. I've got to deox this and the door over there, and I'll have to probably deox these two guards as well, because just to get any minor surface rust. I'll just double check this for any further panel beading or holes. I'm pretty sure it's ready to go. So yeah, that's it. And once I've done that, I can get them both, or get them all in the booth and spray them. So here we go. Everyone probably already knows this, figured it out for themselves, but I hadn't, and it was one of those pet hates that I was doing my head in. These little tiny little metal filings being magnetised to your panel magnets. Yeah, highly annoying and dirty, and I just figured out how to get them off before, and it's really quite simple. So all I did is give them a blast with the airline. There you go. Quick little way to clean up your magnets. All right, so as you can see behind me, I have got a bit of the garden arch to do the job. So I've got all the two front guards and the two doors on that, hanging on it with a bit of fencing wire, and I've covered up the side of the ute just so there's no overspray. I know I should have the ute out of this actual booth, but I can't get it out. I've boxed it in, and there's no way to get it out with the timber at the front at the moment, so I've just covered it up. Epoxy's quite heavy anyway, and also I've got to sort of give that a little bit of a sand before I apply body filler anyway, so it's not going to matter if there's a slight bit of overspray on it in certain areas. So anyway, I'll just give you a bit of a walk around on this, what I've done here. So yeah, I've just got, as you can see, got the garden arch here, which I found lying around the property, and I've just got a bit of wire and tied the wire onto those little hole mounts near the window, and hung the guard in the middle there, so they're sort of off center slightly so that I can get access to the back of that one and the front of that one. And I've got a little bit of timber just propping out the back, the rears of the doors, so that I can sort of get in. These little cross wires here aren't going to affect the spray much, and I don't really worry. I'm not going to worry too much about the rear of the door anyway, because it's going to be covered up, although I do want to seal it. So yeah, that'll be enough to cover it. Same thing, just push it out. And yeah, that one there, I can get to the front of the face of that one and to the rear of that one quite easily. I've got access through here, and yeah, good access for that one as well. So it's worked out all right. All right, so now I'm going to set up a time lapse and get it sprayed. so epoxy's on. Pretty happy with it overall. Once again, once you get it on, you can really see the undulations and marks and stuff. You have to excuse, I dropped my my phone. It's smashed right over the camera lens, so I've got this little mark there now, which is very annoying. So I'm going to have to get a new phone. Anyway, yeah. Look, I was going to do the insides of the guards, but I decided that it wasn't necessary, and I'll do them with some deadener and some KBS or yeah, Raptor liner down the track. I can tick those two off the list now and move on to the bonnet. I wanted to try and get the bonnet done at the same time, but it's just proving too much. It's already been 3 weeks, so get these out and tick it off the list. Body filler on the body and the doors and the guards. And I may see what the costs are to send the chassis, radiator shroud, and inner guards to the sandblasters to get coated, to get sandblasted, and yeah, and then see what the costs are to doing that. But I will start to dismantle the chassis and get all the parts, front end, the diff, wheels, everything, so I can just have the chassis by itself, and then we'll have a look at cleaning it up, fixing those mounting holes which have rusted through. So they'll need some washes there, so I've got an idea about that. So a bit of work in the chassis, but the body can sort of sit there and wait for the body filler. And I'm going to decided through some feedback from a couple of people on the YouTube channel, on the comments, that it's best to try and do the body filler while it's on the rotisserie, and then while that's happening, the chassis can start to get done and coated as well. And then once the chassis and things are coated, I can get the engine and then put it in the chassis. So I really can't drop the body on until the engines and the chassis have been done, and then I can do my final blocking and things like that once the body's on the chassis again. So still got a long way to go. A lot of fiddly little things to sort of balance out, but yeah, nearing and honing into the end. So 2 more things down: guards, front doors, next is bonnet, and then the chassis, and yeah, and we'll see how that goes. But that's it for this episode. It's only a quick one, but it all has to be done. Yeah, for those that have subscribed and joined the journey so far, thank you. For those who haven't subscribed, think about doing it. Start from the start, work your way through it. It might give you motivation to start your project at home that's sitting in the shed gathering dust. So until next time, thanks guys, see you later.